Hello, hello. Thank you, Jesus. The reboot worked. I'm currently recording a meeting. Let's see, one person is waiting. Good morning, Adama. Good morning. Last time, and we missed the devotional, and that's the best part. So, oh, Tom went to turn out the lights. I don't know if y'all can see him on the screen, but he's in secret now. I was a little worried you weren't going to show up, Tom.
Hey, trust me, it was something we started on this about 8 minutes ago, and it kept circling and doing everything else. And I said, "Come on, computer."
I know. I know. I always like to start off with a little story, and my story kind of is a funny point right back at me. I have had a machine where I've been digging last week. Anyway, I was digging trenches all weekend to try and put water and power into this cool little tiny house that I have, and power back to our barn and water out to my animals, so I don't have to take a hose out there and feed them all. And as I'm digging, we found out that we already had water and power to the barn because I cut it with the
Oh no!
the trench digger. So we had this geyser going up. But the best part about that is I had the plumber on the way to the house at the time because they're working on my bathroom. I'm putting in a master bath that I haven't had since we bought the house. So at least when I make a mistake like that, I got the plumber already on the way to come and take care of it. So he was able to fix that. But I get home last night about 7 o'clock. I don't know about y'all, but this has been a much busier work time for me than normal. And I pull in the driveway. I know I've got this Dave Steck thing coming on, and I made dinner for the family. We're sitting around enjoying a great conversation. And my husband said, "Gosh, I almost cut a power line," because now he's digging even more. And but I just missed that. And then he walks out and he goes back out working. And then I go to turn on the computer, and I said, "Hey, what's up with the internet?" And my son says, "Oh yeah, Dad cut the internet wire by accident." So he told me what he missed, but he didn't tell me what he did. And because I cut the water, couldn't sit there and go, "What? Why did you do this? Weren't you thinking?" I couldn't say a word. I just had to go, "Yep, I know what that's like."
Have you guys ever heard of 1-800-DIG, or they don't come to your place?
Well, oh, hush up, Tom. So we did call, and the only one that came out was somebody for a gas, and we don't even have gas. So
That's funny.
yeah, I thought that was real funny. So I come all the way here to the office, and by the time I get to the office, I had already missed the whole the whole show that I was trying to watch, which is the Dave Steck Town Hall. State of the Union is what it was that I was trying to get to. So I completely missed that, and totally missed an opportunity to be right. So I had to live with that. And I actually just spent the night at the office because, I have this Airbnb here at the office. And I have to tell you, if you have an Airbnb, you need to stay at your Airbnbs, because if you really need to see what it's like. I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Now it could be because I was by myself, but I mean, it was it was really nice. And I was, you know, you always look for things that you're missing, you know, shampoos and toothpaste or whatever it is. And the bed is so comfortable. If you, whether you have an Airbnb or not, I have to recommend those Beds in a Box by Zenus. It's Zinnus. I'm telling you, that's one of the most comfortable mattresses I've slept on. And I'm shocked at how comfortable it was.
Go ahead and give yourself a 5-star review, Wendy.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm going to do. You know, the other thing that I wanted to share is, because I know a lot of people do have the short-term rentals. Our bookings are really starting to pick up again. I've picked up a lot more long-term stuff. We've got a lot of traveling nurses coming out, of course. And then there's a lot of traveling workers, construction workers that are booking. So those of you who have short-term rentals that have, you know, 2 or more bedrooms, the working contractors are just a great person to have in there. I mean, I've got one place booked for 60 days from a traveling nurse that's coming in July. And this is a new Airbnb, and we're booked with long-term people in this new Airbnb from now until the end of August. So things are going great. And then Randy Vetter, you guys know him. He sent me an article this morning. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it looks like Airbnb is going to be paying $250 million out for cancellations. So my smaller units all had lots of cancellations. So I'm hoping to hook into that. I also want to make sure that everyone is really keeping up with the changes that are going on, because it's literally changing hourly as to what you can and cannot apply for, as far as the CARES loan that they've put out, and there's 2 of them. One is EIDL. I forget what it stands for. Does anybody know?
Emergency.
Emergency, that's right. The Emergency Disaster Relief Loan, which is basically a $10,000 grant. And then the other one, the CARES, CARRES, I believe is how they've labeled that. That's really more like they're calling that the Paycheck Protection Loan. And it's changing constantly. I do know that if you have more than one company, you can only apply with one company. And you really, really need to look into it. I've got some things I'm going to post on the Sonrisers Facebook page so that you can see what I'm seeing. And any opportunity you can get on a free webinar, I've been throwing those up on Sonrisers as well. Hey, if you're on and you haven't muted yourself, please do so. I'm also sending out as much as I can on that Facebook page, just so everybody can keep up on what's going on, because it is changing constantly. And I was listening to the news, which I hate to do, but I actually I have to kind of during this time. And one of the things that the president said when he spoke the other night is that the next few weeks are going to be ferocious, I think is one of the words he used. Scary. He just used the word really scary for the next few weeks. And we really just need to take things seriously. I had a Wednesday with Wendy person this past Wednesday that was a virtual meeting for me. And she's in California, and I put together a care package for her because she can't get anything with any alcohol in it whatsoever. And she happens to be a chemist. So she was telling me all the items that I could send her that would help her. And a mouthwash is one of them. The big giant bottles of mouthwash have all kinds of alcohol in them that they can use to sanitize with. So I went to the dollar store and loaded up on some stuff for her and sent it to her. But she said they're literally standing in line. And I think Sue can also, she's got family out there as well. But they're literally standing in line for hours just to get into a store. And every time they leave the house, they have to have sanitizer with them, or they can't go in a store without having that in their hands to be able to wipe things off. So it's tough living in communist California.
Yeah.
They've just had it, they've had it pretty bad over there. And we just need to, always be lifting those folks up, and us too, just to make this thing go away. And it's so amazing that it's not just here, it's worldwide. That's what's just so amazing. So, but anyway, Tom, I'm going to introduce you. Hello.
Hello.
So, you ready to do the devotional for us this morning?
I am. And
thank you, sir.
Good morning, guys, as I always say. Because we are each in our own place, and you may not be using your cell phone, but if you would, I'm going to start off with the book of John, the 5th chapter this morning, and because you have that opportunity. And I also want to remind everyone, when they sent this out, that John, our restaurant owner, was involved in an accident. I guess it was last week, and he said had some shortness of breath, and I think broke his toe, and he's still trying to keep his business open through carryouts. But I have his address, and I'll try to get Doc maybe to put it on the chat location. So we sent him a card the other day at his restaurant. His address is 2002 Weston House Boulevard, and the zip code over there is 28241. So I'm sure he would be delighted to receive a card from us. Normally we would have one and have everyone to sign it, but because we are not in the same location, you may have to just do a get well card and just put a stamp on it and send it to him. So if you have a chance this week to be able to do that, I would appreciate that.
Thank you so much for doing that.
But if you would, again, I'm going to read a few verses from John, the 5th chapter. And the scriptures read that sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been there, an invalid, for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool. When the water is stirred, while I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. And as I'm doing a study in the book of John, and as you hear this, some other editions has that there was an angel that came there and stirred the water, and it never talks about the number of people that can go in there. But you think about this. This person was an invalid for 38 years. And so for 38 years, however many times this angel is supposed to stir this pool, this person was there. And it goes back to show us, the thought this morning is, do we really want to change our lives? Because he was there and he never gave up hope that he could be healed. But the surrounding people that he was with were like him. He was in the midst of people just like him. They may have been blind, they may be crippled or whatever, but whenever he was ready to start something or try to get there, someone got there before him and got that blessing. But it showed a determination with this person that he had not given up. And so the lesson this morning is, when Jesus said, "Do you want to be healed?" Jesus really was saying to him, do you really want to change? Do you want to get out of that cycle where you are? Do you want to just be here around these people all the time, or are you ready for a change in life? And change is one of the most difficult things, that we face in life. One reason we do not like change is because we get comfortable with where we are. We get used to our friends, the job, the place we live. And even if it's not perfect, we accept it because it's familiar. And when we are not willing to change, we get stuck in the past instead of moving forward into what God is all about. The question I'm asking is, are we ready for a change? Are we ready to break the cycle to day-to-day life and to receive God's change? I am talking to someone who's tired of going around and doing the same thing and doing it every day. Now, there are 5 things that I see that hinders change. One is pride. I don't need to change. There is nothing wrong with me. You are the one who needs change. Pride goes before destruction. Fear is another one. I'm afraid to change. I'm afraid to take a risk. I will live in the average rather than stepping in something new. Too fearful to change leads to confusion. There is no fear in love. God says perfect love drives out fear because fear has to do with punishment. The third reason is rebellion. I will not change. Too rebellious to change leads to destruction. Another hindrance for change is laziness. It's too hard for me to change and no time to change. Laziness leads to poverty. When will you get up from your sleep? That's written in Proverbs. And here it says, and poverty will come to you like a thief, and security and scarcity like an armed man. The other reason out of the 5 is ignorance. I don't know how to change. Ignorance toward change will lead nowhere. Change is inevitable. Whoever God calls, he brought seasons of change. So again, here was a person who had been an invalid for 38 years. But when I read that, I thought about Jim Valvano, Jimmy V, when he gave his last speech before he died, about never giving up, never giving up. And he talked about cancer and what it would do, but he said it would never take his spirit. So as we go through change with this virus, as we go through change with our lives, with our businesses, we had a favorite restaurant, and this morning we got up and we prayed for all those, that we knew that was there. And I said, waitresses and waiters who major income is from tips, they haven't been employed in weeks. So there's a lot of people who are experiencing the difficulty in life that don't even have a chance to even apply for unemployment just because of the sheer number of people that's going through there. And this morning, we are blessed. We are on this call. We are entrepreneurs. We're kind of self-starters, and we're still looking at other ways to make money and to be more successful when the larger part of the population is looking at, Lord, where is this meal coming from this day? Where am I going to get this? Whether they cut off the lights, the utility companies may not turn anything off. We have had families who called us, concerning, their rent. We found some websites and other places they can go that may help temporarily with some of these. But, we're around a lot of people that are going through changes, whether or not they plan for it or not. And I'll say today, as I said last week, this is a perfect time for someone who knows Jesus to be able to touch lives, because they now don't have confidence in their way of life. And you have a lot of people like this invalid that's ready to make a change. Let's have a prayer. Gracious and eternal God, Father in heaven, Father, we thank you for this day. This that's going on in our country and in this world is nothing that surprises you. You knew about it before it came, how long it will last, and all of the other things that will go along with it. But Father, help us to be those people who have calmness and tranquility in our life, and let us have the positive impact that we can tell people that we come in contact with how they can change. And because all of these people that were around this invalid, none of them could help him. He only could be changed when Jesus came to him and was able to make that difference in his life. And we pray, Father, that this morning on this call and on this telecast, that many of us have accepted you to make change. And for those who haven't, just pray, Father, that this morning, as Jesus said to this invalid, I'm asking them, do you want to make a change? And I'll lift this question and this prayer up to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tom. That was terrific. Thank you so much. You know, you mentioned Coach Jimmy V. I have the greatest memory in the world. I was at that game. I don't remember if it was 81 or 82 when they won
1983.
Okay.
1983 when the Wolfpack.
That makes me younger.
That's when it was,
I could
1983.
not believe what I was watching when I saw that ball just fly. It was just, it was the greatest thing ever. It was the greatest thing ever. And he was such an excellent coach. Just the excitement was just unbelievable. Those were the good old days. They don't have games like that anymore, right? It's never the same. No, I really, really appreciate you and everything you do with us, Tom. Thank you so much. And if you can get that address for John
Yes,
over
ma'am.
to us, I would really love to. I'll put that out there. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, God takes everything and turns it into something good, right?
Amen.
And I have been, you know, when this all first came down, I was thinking, gosh, what are we going to do about our meetings? But this has been such a blessing for us because now, you know, I'm able to dip into my pool of incredible brain trust people and invite them from all over the country to come and speak with us and share with us. You get to hear me talk about them all the time, and now you're getting an opportunity to listen to them. And it's really by kind of by accident, but we've been the past three people have been from Richmond, Virginia. So it's like the next hot spot. So you guys have heard me talk about Jim Ingersoll many times, you know, events that I've gone to that are his, and just what a great human being he is. And Jim, I just want to thank you for taking the time to getting up early. I'm sure you're up early anyway, but coming and spending this time with us. Welcome. You know, you've heard me talk about Sonrisers a lot.
I have.
And welcome to my group, this group of incredible people that are, they're just thirsty, here to learn and here to share and focused on the word. And but I'm so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about who you are. We call him the godfather of the Mafia of Virginia. But how did that come about, Jim?
Well, at first I was just thinking, Wendy, like 2 months ago, almost to the day, you were at my house.
Oh, and it's a nice house, and the food was good.
But not that, but it's the second time you've been over. We have always loved seeing you, Cheryl and I do, but think of how much has changed in the last 7 to 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's overwhelming to think about it, to be honest with you, especially over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And we should be in March Madness right now, you guys just reminded me of, right?
That's right.
It's like God hit the pause button on all of our lives. And, you know, everybody goes from scaling up to, well, maybe we better get real about what's really going on here.
That's for real.
Lots changed since you were at my house, Wendy, with your son. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank
you. I don't know how I ended up as the godfather of Richmond, other than the fact that I just share my network, and I haven't even watched the Godfather movies, to be honest with you. But I was at an airport, and I think it was Jennifer Rice's husband came up to me, and he kissed my ring in some airport. I didn't know really. It's like, what is going on? I don't know if you know Jennifer Everhart, but. And he's like, you're the godfather. And I'm like, oh, I got it now. Okay, I got to go back and like watch that movie because they do call me the godfather of Richmond. I don't know if that's a good thing, Wendy, or not, but it's a matter of just like, I don't know how it originally started, but anyways, it's just a matter of sharing and being willing to help other people out. And kind of like what you do here with Sonrisers. I've been hearing about Sonrisers for like as long as I've known you, Wendy, however many years that is. I mean, what an honor to be here with you today. What an impact this group has made, and what an opportunity, given the challenging times we're in right now, for everybody to gather up on Zoom, of all things. I mean, it's great. And Tom, I really enjoyed what you shared this morning. So it's off to a great start, Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So a godfather is a leader. It's someone that people look up to, that they want to emulate. And you certainly fit that model. It's amazing how I can go all over the country and everybody knows who Jim Ingersoll is. And the group of people at your Dealmaker session, you know, it's so many faces that I recognized when I was there from all over the place. Even people from outside the country were there.
Yep. And
they're just there to learn. And it's the culture that you carry with you that is so unusual in the real estate world. You know, that's what we're so thrilled to be a part of in Sonrisers, is the culture that's here. And you have a real similar culture with all that you do as well.
Well, thank you, Wendy. I mean, you know, I really don't love talking about myself. So I've really got to dig deep today to get stuff out about myself. Because
so how did you
I don't want to be self-absorbed. I want to like give and make an impact with other people, but I know you got to hear part of my story along the way, so I understand.
So share it with us. Tell us how you got into the real estate business to begin with.
Well, you know what? I grew up in a small town in New York, so let me start back there before I moved to Virginia. A small town about 60 miles south of Buffalo. And growing up, my dad was an architect, Wendy, and he did real estate part-time. And what I saw him do is he bought, I think, 2 duplexes and a triplex or something like that. And he managed them for a period of time. And over a period of time, what I saw him do is eventually he sold those and he took the proceeds and paid off our family house.
Wow.
So all of a sudden our house was debt-free. He made it all look so easy that when Cheryl and I got married in 1987, a long time ago, Cheryl was my next door neighbor. That's a whole nother story. But, you know, my dad made it look so easy that, you know, we bought our first house for like $19,000. We lived in that house. It was a fixer-upper. And then like right around maybe 3 years later, so around 1990, I said, I'm going to buy a duplex. I found a good deal. It was around $21,000. I thought, you know, I got an income upstairs, an income downstairs. What could possibly go wrong? So I had no fix-up cost. You know, that's before rehab loans and before hard money lenders and before YouTube and everything else. I didn't know what I didn't know. And all of a sudden, I had a house that was difficult. First of all, I had so many repairs that we were undercapitalized. We didn't have money to do the repairs. It was a hot mess of a house, of course. That's why it's $21,000. There is a reason, right? I didn't know how to be a landlord, so I was working full-time as an engineer. I'd meet tenants after work, and you know, they have a pulse and they have some money for deposit. I didn't need an application. I didn't even know what an application was. So in they go, and then I had trouble collections. I had trouble with evictions. I had trouble with repairs. We didn't have money for repairs. I wasn't making very much money back then. And like the boiler broke in the basement one winter, and it was cold near Buffalo, let me tell you.
I bet.
And, you know, I didn't have money to call the repairman for the boiler, so we went to Walden Bookstore, and I bought like a book on boilers, and I like thumbed through it and figured out how to fix the boiler. And anyways, it was a disaster. And it's because I had no network, I had no training, you know, all the missing pieces. And we ended up selling that duplex on a land contract with a refinance set up to 24 hours later. So we were out of it, and then I moved to Virginia in 1998. But when we moved here, Cheryl made me swear we'd never be landlords again because it was that bad. So anybody that's gotten off to a bad start on something, and your spouse has sort of hit the reset button on you, it took a while to get my wife to buy back into real estate after that. That all could have been avoided if I had a network and the training and a support group like Sonrisers or what you provide there in Charlotte, Wendy. So the beginning of my real estate career did not go very well. I was working full-time, investing part-time in my mid-20s. If I hadn't missed those 10 years, I'd be a lot further ahead today than I am.
The mistakes make us really good, right?
The obstacle is the way. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that true?
It is. So do you still have that property?
No, you know what? I went back to my hometown to check on it. We sold it on a land contract and then they refinanced it the next day.
Wow.
So that worked out okay. That was back when seasoning and stuff was different in the 90s, but I went back to check it out and it was gone. It literally burned down.
Oh, wow.
So it is totally gone.
Wow. So what made you move to Virginia?
I took a job transfer with basically Lucent Technologies. Anybody ever heard of Lucent?
Once or twice?
So yeah, I took a job transfer. It's back when I worked in corporate America, Wendy. So, and this goes back to closer to Y2K. We moved here in '98. And all of a sudden, I became a corporate slave. That wasn't very fun either because, you know, like we moved here in July of '98. And then like 3 weeks after I started my job, they said I had to go to England on a very short notice. It happened to be right over the time period that we were moving all our stuff from New York to Virginia.
Wow.
So like we packed our truck, drove to Virginia. I got on a plane and went to England. Cheryl had to unpack everything because I was the corporate slave and I was overseas, right? And then she started looking for a house because I was in temporary housing for 2 months. And she found the house that we wanted to live in Richmond when I was in Mexico. And then literally like 3 weeks later, they sent me to China.
You are the godfather.
So like all of a sudden they told me it'd be, you know, like 20% travel. I could live with that. And all of a sudden, like I was in England, Mexico, China. I was like all over the United States. It was insanity. I had no control of my life. And what we were really doing is setting up outsourcing for the United States. We were setting up factories all over the place. We had 2,200 people working in a 750,000 square foot factory in Richmond. And after we opened everything up, guess what? We started closing it down in the United States. Not fun. So we went from 2,200 people down to 30, and I was still working. And I'm like, this corporate stuff is way overrated. And that was the beginning of mine trying to figure out what else I could do on my own.
Wow. So what'd you do?
Well, when we got down to 30 people, they asked me to move to St. Louis. I'm like, no, man, I'm getting off this train. And I took a job running a factory in Northern Virginia, Richmond, and then in Raleigh, North Carolina, actually.
Oh, wow.
And, it was a window and door factory, and it was going pretty well. I had a lot of employees at one point, 300 employees. People asked me how it is managing tenants. Managing 300 employees isn't fun either. And so that was good until it wasn't. And then all of a sudden that company went out, and I had to close our factory in Richmond. I had to close our factory in the Raleigh-Durham area. And you know, it's fun to scale up. It's not fun to scale down. And laying off all those people, I said, that is it. I am off this corporate thing, man. I am out. Like when you close factories, you worry about things like security. Like they didn't want me to tell people what hotel I was staying at in the Raleigh-Durham area. They wanted me to have like an armed guard when I made the announcement to the factory. I mean, it's just bad experiences. And I'm like, that is it. That is it. I'm never going back. Then I started wholesaling. And that was around maybe 2006, Wendy. And when I started wholesaling right before we closed everything down, like at the same time during transition. And everything I did failed. Boom. It's like I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. I'd find a seller, but I wouldn't have a buyer. I'd find a buyer, wouldn't have a seller. Afraid to write a contract. And then, so I like stumbled. It was like stumbling for like 3 months. And all of a sudden, everything opened up, and then it became easy. And that's what I did full time after that.
Wow. It looks like God was just kind of pushing you around to get you out.
I think so. I think so. And so anybody that sort of struggles for a period of time understands, like, you just got to keep moving forward over and over. And we did that. And it started with, I saw a little for rent sign south of Richmond, and the house was a piece of trash type house, and this landlord was trying to rent it. And I kept driving by it. And I'm like, why is this guy trying to rent this house that's, obviously got so much deferred maintenance and so many problems? So I called him up, and I still remember his name. It's Bob Sykes. And I'm like, Bob, what's going on with this house? He's like, I can't rent it. I don't have the money to do the fix up. I've got more houses. So all of a sudden I put a whole package under contract, and then started wholesaling that package. And then everything became easier after that. And the year after that, I wholesaled 120 houses.
Wow.
Which was pure insanity in and of itself.
Wow. Wow. So then comes the crash.
Yeah, then comes the crash. So wholesaling after a crash is not easy either, Wendy. A lot of wholesalers go out. So we had to constantly be changing what we do. And there was a house that we were going to rent in Highland Springs, Virginia. We were planning to rent it. I was starting to build rentals then. Thank God I did. And somebody made me an offer to buy the house. And I thought, well, this is like flipping a house. So we sold the house and started renting it. And I thought, well, that was pretty easy to make some money. So we started flipping and building rentals at the same time. And buying those rentals during the downturn, I mean, it changed everything long term for where we're at today.
Awesome. How did you finance them during that time?
Well, financing, you remember the crash of 2008, right, Wendy?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I see some similarities to what we're going through now. Financing started to get difficult, and all the investors started to fall through because of financing. So the hard money lenders, some of them went out of business, not all of them.
Yeah, 1 or 2 million.
And banks started not lending. So I started to build a network of private lenders is what I started doing. The first one was a small business owner. I went to Panera's, who's a friend of mine from church, and we were just talking about business like you guys do at Sonrisers, really. And he asked how things are going. And I said, well, the challenge now is I can easily find really great deals, but the problem is the financing, at least for the short term. This is before Burr became a big thing, right?
Right.
So buy and rehab and all that. So he's like, well, I'll do that with you. We drove around, looked at some houses, and he's like, I'll do some deals with you. And just talked to him a couple of days ago on the phone. And so that was sort of the start of it. And so we went from wholesaling to doing some flipping and some renting. And we did all of that with private funds really a long time ago.
That's awesome. That's how we work at Carolina Hard Money too. That's how I started was, one person at a time. And didn't you find that, once you got one person on board to see that it's successful, to trust what you're doing, and they see they're getting that passive income, then they tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends and so on, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. It's, you don't have to pitch and sell yourself. You don't have to violate securities. You have to build relationships with real people and allow them to participate in a strong way in your deals. The deals are going to be really good coming up. So it's a good time to position yourself for that.
It really is. I sitting on cash right now is probably not a bad idea.
I agree.
At least for the next, 30 days, 60 days, just to see kind of what washes out. But the not being afraid, I think, is really, really important. And picking your partners in business very strategically and carefully. Character is number 1 at this point. It should be anyway, but number 1 at this point. Let's see, we have a question here that says, given the current climate, it sounds like the current strategy is to wait a little while longer for deals. because housing prices have not yet declined. Is that a reasonable takeaway? What's your opinion on that, Jim?
I think it's a good time to hit the pause button and just kind of wait and see. Yeah, I do. And I think what you said about everybody hopefully has cash reserves. I know not all landlords do, and not every investor does, because this happened like that quick, right?
Right.
And people were still buying a lot of stuff and scaling up. And so I mean, I understand why people don't, but if you've got cash, that's good. That'll help you sustain. It's like your bridge. But work on relationships, because if you have access to cash, if the market starts to decline, like I think it will, then you'll be in position to get a lot better deals in the near future.
Right. You know, one of the things that I'm doing differently now is I haven't stopped buying, but now I am looking for seller financing. And I really believe that at this time, the people that are really wanting to sell, they're now going to consider seller financing where they wouldn't previously. Even if I do a balloon payment at, you know, maybe in 6 months or a year, or when things turn around a little bit. And you know Aaron Chapman, I think I told you this yesterday, Aaron Chapman, who I believe is probably the most famous mortgage broker in the world. He and the craziest guy, he said he's now investing in precious metals. It's a piece of steel covered in copper. So he's you know, got this, if anybody has ever seen Aaron Chapman, he's got this long ZZ top beard that he braids, and he's a serious believer, and he's just a good guy, but boy is he blunt. But he was saying, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that at this point he believes that the bread and butter rental market, single family, is really going to explode and do very well, because, you know, people are now experiencing 30 to 60 days sitting at home listening to their spouse and their kids screaming in the background while they're trying to work. And now they're all wanting space to work, a home office. They really realize how small their home is. So their desire is going to be to upgrade to a larger place, which I thought made a lot of sense. The question is, are they going to be able to afford it?
Well, and you got to keep in mind, like, all the FHA guidelines just changed. I mean, that's a lot of first-time home buyers. So the credit score requirements are going up, and the pool of first-time home buyers just shrunk last week a little bit.
Yeah.
So you got to watch all of that. And I also think it's going to be a lot of opportunities with totally burned out landlords to buy houses at a better deal, because think about it, for landlords that were struggling with tenants before this. I'm not talking about professional landlords like, you know, like our group here maybe, but just mom and pop type landlords that may have had 1, 3, 5 houses. All of a sudden, you know, you wake up today and our unemployment rate's now 9.5%. I don't know what it'll be next week.
Right.
And you got tenants rallying on these crazy rent strikes. That's a whole nother discussion. And people are trying to collect rent this week and may be struggling to get it. The other group is the Airbnb owners that are struggling for occupancy. So I think burned out landlords is a great buying opportunity that's coming up in the next 30 days.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the way to find them is the key. You know, how are you going to locate them? And you know, now buying lists, you know, or going to the courthouse and making sure that there's a company that owns the house and it's not an owner-occupied house. There's ways of tracking all that down. But, you know, now's the time to be researching that kind of thing, because it's all online to begin with, right?
Yeah, so you can go to the online tax records and do searches. You can find every duplex in the city of Charlotte if you wanted. You could also go to Facebook Marketplace, see who's renting. So Zillow, there's a lot of places that make it pretty easy. And right now, I think over the next week or so is a good time to reach out. It's not about being greedy, it's about solving problems.
Right.
Because if they had trouble collecting rent in March, it's going to be worse in April.
Right.
And especially if it's an aging landlord that say he's also immune compromised, Wendy, or has other underlying health issues that makes them even more fearful right now. they would welcome an exit strategy today to get rid of the tenant, to get rid of the property, to get rid of the problem. So if you're ready to solve problems, it's a good time to go at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even if you're buying a home where the tenant is not able to pay this month or even next month, you know, that stimulus package, we're all praying it's going to work, but that stimulus package should boost people a bit. And I do believe, you know, it might be wishful thinking, but I do believe when this is over, that most people will get their jobs back. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure what the timing will be, Wendy, and I think it's going to come down to the election time. So it's sort of a wild card on the back end. You know, I don't really have that crystal ball. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it going to be like 2008? Is it going to be less than that? Is it going to be a sharp V? Is it going to be the Great Depression? Who knows? There's so much stimulus that I'm not sure they have incentive to go back to work either.
Right. I know I like to lay around for a while.
Oh, yeah, right. You're the hardest working person I know.
Yeah. So I've got another question here. It's from Brighton, and he's asking, what are some of the key things that helped you make the transition from the corporate world to real estate full time?
Well, I think perseverance. So when you struggle for a period of time, it's easy to give up. But my kids back then were in like middle school, high school. I couldn't give up. I didn't have another plan except to go back into corporate America. And then I would have had to have moved.
Right.
I didn't want to move. So I think perseverance and just being willing to keep moving forward even when it's hard. And then you just got to figure out like how much do you really need every month? Like, and maybe it's a good time, Wendy, for people to cut some expenses too. Like, I know everybody's binge watching TV these days because you're home, but like, do we need all these extra things? Like, maybe we could cut our own grass, or maybe we can cut some of our cable out, or whatever it is. And just take a look at what you really have to have every month and just focus on those things and cut some expenses. So that you can, because right now it's a good time for some people to transition out on their own.
That's right. That's
and you
exactly
can do that.
right.
I think it's a good time to wholesale. I think it's still a good time to flip. I mean, we listed a house 2 days ago. We sold it. So the market.
What price range was that in?
200,000.
Okay.
So if you're at or below median, our median's like 250 or 275. I think those houses are still moving today. I don't know that they will be in 45 days from now, but they're moving fast. People are still getting multiple offers here in Richmond.
Well, and you know, we don't know what they're going to be worth because, you know, at this time, people might be inclined to do some fire sales to get rid of their properties, which is going to drop the comps for anything in the future. So that's probably the thing that worries me the most is what will the true values of the houses be? I mean, we saw what it did in 2008, and we hear people over and over again say that crash was different because it was truly a mortgage-based crash. So it was different than everything else. However, when you look at this, what's going on now, it's affecting the mortgage situation. I don't think in the same way, but the same thing has happened. The secondary markets have stopped. Wall Street's no longer buying loans. So we're almost, the only thing that's different is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are still buying loans. They're still closing loans. So, you know, how is that really going to affect us? I don't know.
I don't know either. Commercial banks are still lending as well, but a lot of those hedge fund lenders are gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for you, Wendy.
Yes, I'm kind of liking it a little bit, but it's
So I don't know. What do you think, Wendy?
Well, we need that. This is why I think it's so important for everyone to understand. you never put all your eggs in one basket for whoever's financing your deals. You should have a multitude of private lenders. You should have a multitude of hard money lenders. You should have a multitude of banks that you're dealing with, and not put all your eggs in one basket. It is so important to be diversified, not only in your investments, but in who you're investing with, who is your partner in that financing world. And again, I have to go back to just being really, really careful and going after that seller financing again. I have another couple of things here. Daryl Brocklebank said, I bet 30% won't get their jobs back. He said the reason is most company owners were fat and their staff, he has trouble typing. I know he's laughing at this. And they're fat and they're realizing that they can do it without all the extra personnel. And I agree with that 100%. Another one says, hey, I was on, this is Ken Lacey, I was on Tom Olson's call a few days ago with Eddie Wilson. And Eddie said the window of opportunity for the investor wanting to take advantage of this time is going to be finite because the base economy is strong and will rebound quickly. Perhaps a good talking point for you and Jim. So what do you think of that? Because that's kind of opposite of what we're saying.
Well, a lot of people think it's going to be a V, like a really sharp decline and then a sharp pullback. I mean, that's what Trump's hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeltsin and all these people we see every afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, and then JP Morgan said it's going to be like 2008. And then there are really smart people that think we're going into the Great Depression. So I don't know, but I know that unemployment went to like 9.5% yesterday, and it's going to be higher next week.
Yeah. And it is going to be hard to bounce back.
There are people that think unemployment will go up over 30%. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
In the Great Depression, it was 25%, I believe. So
yeah.
I hope it just rebounds and that buying opportunities right there, Ken.
Yeah.
Bottom. I would love, I mean, another shot at doing some wealth building in that trough.
Yeah. And then too, you know, when you're looking at what is this doing to the small business owner, because that's, you know, I think we're the ones getting hit the hardest, the small business owners. And it really depends on where you were when this started. And, you know, going back to what Darren was saying, is that a lot of the small business owners were growing quickly and getting fat and happy, and now they realize that you have to be lean, and have realized that they just don't need all the employees that they had previously. So you know, that's a thinning of the herd too, as far as the owners are concerned. Which ones are going to really be able to stay in business, and which ones are not. So,
and, you know, cities like Charlotte are on fire. I mean, their economy is so good, correct?
That's
Wendy?
correct.
So I don't know, you know, I could see the case for like this V where it sort of drops and we just have a short window and then it goes back up.
Right.
If that happens, I might be coming to Charlotte to buy.
Come on down.
It's a market I believe in. So if you guys find deals near the bottom, call me. It might be coming.
Well, if we have any leftover, we'll be sure to do that.
Dave Steck did really well in the last down market because he bought so much stuff in cities that were devastated.
Right.
So I think if things extend out, that's something to look at.
That's right. In his IRA, he bought these properties in his IRA and literally turned it into a multi-million-dollar IRA. And I think he started out with $200,000 in it.
Yep.
It's crazy. Yeah.
You know, I hate to say buy when there's blood in the street, but buy when everyone else is fearful and sell when everyone else is buying.
That's what Jimmy Buffett said. Jimmy Buffett. The other Buffett guy, Warren.
It is so funny. Yeah. Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett just does it while he's drinking. So
This economy will lead you there.
that's right. That's right. And Jody Christensen, she is a wholesaler
Yeah.
here in town, a really good wholesaler. She says, I'm talking with landlords in my database, doing the best I can to keep the dialogue going this month. How would you suggest that I approach these conversations about the obvious tenants falling behind on paying rent, deferred maintenance on 10 plus rental properties, and they're getting calls every day from folks like her, wholesalers. So how should she handle those conversations?
Well, two things. I don't know if she's talking about like her. There's two parts of this. There's your buyers, and then you got your sellers. I don't know which one she's talking to. Wholesalers should also be talking to their buyers list right now and double checking their buyers community, because lending has changed. Smart investors are changing their criteria. I have. So make sure that the landlords that were buying before and the flippers that were buying before are still buying, and see if they've changed up their criteria. If you're talking about landlords that are sellers, I do think it's a good time to do follow-up. It's critical. Go back to people that you talked to last year and see if their situation's changed, because it has. And I don't know if she's on or if we could unmute her, but what was the second part of that question with landlords? How to talk to them?
Hold on a second. I'm gonna find, can you unmute yourself, Jody?
Hey, I'm here. Good morning.
Hey,
Okay.
Jody.
Okay, talk, girly.
So these are landlords that you're following up with that own property in Charlotte that may want to sell?
Yeah, they're the database. They're the leads that I've been collecting over the last couple of years.
Nice.
A lot of these are accidental.
Good.
They're not the professional. They're not the sharks like the group here.
Yeah.
And I follow a lot of these are rentals that haven't had the maintenance or the upgrades in the last 10 years.
Right.
So I'm trying to set myself apart because they're bombarded. And I get it. That's what I've got to do. So I'm trying to come at this with as most empathy as I can and not appear to be an ambulance chaser, but I kind of am, And
I think if you have that list and you have the contacts and the names and the phone numbers, I think you're sitting on like a gold mine, to be honest with you. And I think I think you're right. What you said about having empathy for landlords right now is good. Landlords are under fire right now. I mean, in Richmond, there's groups that are doing this rent strike thing, and it's not good. You know what I mean? So I'm really fortunate. We've not really had collections problems ourselves, but between unemployment and all the other things, it's a good time for a landlord to sell. Maybe, Jody, you could differentiate yourself by coming at it with seller financing, like Wendy said. And I know as a wholesaler, you want that assignment fee, but you could do like a wraparound mortgage if you wanted to stay in the deal.
We did a small subject to last month, and I just put a little baked in there, and those tend to be the more savvy.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to, I asked those questions about seller financing, and I know that's where the meat is, especially right now with nobody wanting to let go of their cash. So I know I just have to keep at it, but I'm just trying to set myself apart, trying to be the problem solver, but also make some money, because the last two, we just tried to renegotiate the contracts. I knew they needed to come down, but they're holding out for retail. And so now I've got to wait my turn because the next wholesaler picked them up, so I've got to.
I think follow-up's the key. And I think if you come at it like from the standpoint with empathy, and then being in position where you just want to reach out to them, see how they're doing, without even talking about selling.
That's
just ask them, like, how's it going? I mean, it's the 3rd of April. You don't even have to ask them how the rent collections went, because a lot of people are struggling in that regard.
Yeah.
They are. So I think just being there for them and being authentic and genuine and wanting to be able to help them, so they know who to call if they have a problem. Instead of being aggressive and saying, you better sell right now because in 60 days your house is going to be worth less than it is today. I wouldn't use fear. There's enough fear out there anyways.
That's for sure.
And maybe offer them some resources. Like, if your tenants are really struggling, here's a contact for the United Way. Maybe they want to contact them. And just sort of differentiate yourself that way as a problem solver and somebody who's going to support them rather than just somebody who's trying to buy their house.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Jim. I love that. We're like at the end, and I don't want to leave without you talking a little bit about your podcast and your Dealmaker event that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
All right. Yeah, I've been podcasting for like 3 years now. It's hard to believe. And
I love your shirt on it. It says rents due. I used that picture on this.
Yeah. It's good. It's not a good time to wear that because these rent strike groups are going to blast me. But yes, I do have a shirt that says rents due. I love it because as an entrepreneur, it isn't just a landlord shirt. As an entrepreneur, our rent's due every day.
That's right.
We get up and make it happen every day. Nobody else does. You don't get a W-2 check every day, every week. So your rent is due every day. And so, yeah, Real Estate Success Podcast is out there on YouTube and in iTunes. Check it out. And Wendy, I'd love to have you back, have some of these conversations. And yeah, Dealmaker is really good. Dealmaker 21 will be coming up in next February. I haven't announced it, but the website's all together. It's dealmaker2021.com. Wendy was our, I think, very top favorite speaker this year. Wendy, I haven't shared that with you, but I've had so much. Oh my gosh. I don't know. You're amazing. It's hard to believe 2 months ago was our event and you were at my house. And then since then, the world's changed so much. So yeah, we do this. It's about the 8th or 9th year in a row we've done it. And I think good times coming up as a real estate investor. Just
how many people did you have at the last Dealmaker?
We had over 200.
And you were sold out like 2 weeks in advance at least.
Yeah, I could have probably done another 30 people at least, I bet. But we're changing it up. I'll be able to get some more next year if I want.
And so your podcast is called Real Estate Success?
Yeah, Real Estate Success with Jim Ingersoll, and check that out. And
I actually just typed it in, so it's in the chat. Cool. And then I'll make sure I get it posted on our Facebook page as well. Jim, you are a wealth of knowledge. You're so inspiring, and I'm just so grateful for what you've done for us here, sharing with what you've shared. It's just wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to come back again and just like participate if I'm allowed to, Wendy. Please do, and tell all your friends. I mean, I could have invited this. We would have like doubled this if I'd have done that. So awesome. We can do that. So Thanks everybody. What an honor to be here. I've heard about Sonrisers for years, and now because of the pandemic, here I am. See, God takes everything and turns it for good, right? That's true. Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, again, these are recorded sessions. And yes, I will put these out. Still trying to figure out exactly the best way to do this. They may be broken up into smaller pieces and put on Facebook and different YouTube channels and things like that. We might even end up with the Sonrisers YouTube channel. How's that sound? That's the way to go. Idea. Yeah, thank you. That's the other great thing is I'm so thrilled because when this happened, I thought, wow, Sonrisers could go national, and just isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. Really, really excited about it. So thank you all so much. Y'all have a great week, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to continue to lift John up in prayer with the restaurant. And I love you all. We'll talk soon. Stay safe. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks, Wendy. Thank you.